Hi there. This is Mavis Whispers ASMR. I am Mavis, and today I want to hang out with you and share my latest tarot deck, gifted to me by my sister. You know, they say that the tarot decks that work best are the ones that are given as gifts. I don't know if that is true, and I continue to buy tarot card decks, but still, it's worth noting. So, this deck is the Light Seer's Tarot. It is by Chris Ann. And what we're going to do is start by looking at the packaging and the book, and then we will dig in to the major arcana and then the minor arcana. I will just flip through without saying much of anything so that you can see the cards and relax. And then at the end, I might whisper a little goodbye. I cannot go without saying goodbye. So let's check out the packaging here first. So it comes in this box, and there are some sample cards on the side. And this right here, this card, I believe is the High Priestess card. We'll see when we get into it. Bent around the box. Chris Ann, the Light Seer's Tarot. Hay Publishing. Hay House Publishing. And then the back is just a description and some sample cards, which we are going to see in their full glory shortly. So let's open the box. Now the cover inside has a message from Chris Ann. I'm going to read it to you. And into the gray we follow, like 1,000 flickering stars, and there in a sunlit hollow we lose and find what is ours. Dear Light Seer and Shadow Seer, may this deck help you to find what is yours. Chris Ann. I absolutely love when packaging has things like this inside the box. So, then inside the box we come to the book, and we'll take a look at that. And then our deck of cards. So the guidebook is tiny but thick, and I did want to point out some things that will help us to understand this deck. This is a journey of shadows and sunshine. The contents include a letter from the designer, the author, the artist. Then there are some beginner's tips. And then there's a note on upright and reversed cards. and I'd actually like to read it to you. I find that sometimes I'm in the mood to just do upright cards, and it's hard to remember when including reversal cards which hand I'm supposed to flip them which way. It's basic tarot reading, but I kind of struggle with it, especially because I'm more of a dabbler and collector than an actual seer. So here we have a note on upright cards and reversals. Some readers use upright cards only, and many a case has been made that there is no need to read with reversals, as the full energy of the human condition is contained within the 78 cards. I believe this to be true. Others prefer to read with reversals, giving us 156 messages to work with. As a side note here, yes, 156 cards, if you count one card as upright and then the reversal is a second card. But I think with the tarot, as with any spiritual thing, it's what you bring to it. So these messages are more than just what's in the cards. They're really what you see. So it could be way more than 156 with all the people you might do readings for. So, continuing on. A reversal is when you pick up a card and the image is upside down. I have chosen to include the meaning for upright as light seer and reversal messages shadow seer as key words in the guidebook. But of course, I leave it up to you how you interpret the cards. And this goes on and then talks about connecting with the cards. And then spreads. Lots of tips on spreads, and then some actual spreads for you to try. And then it goes into definitions for the major arcana with a picture of the card and then some text to help you get a reading. So, as we go through the major arcana, we might refer back to the book. We'll see what we need to do. As I take the cards out of the box, there's a little image of a sun. And then here is the deck. So we see the first card already, but I'm actually going to shoot off screen so you can see the cards more closely as we dig in. So before we dive in to the major arcana, let's just look at the back of the cards. There's the design, and what is worth noting about the design in this or any deck of tarot cards is that no matter which way your card is facing, it's going to look the same, which means that prior to flipping a card, you cannot tell if it will be an upright card or a reversal, or in the case of this deck, whether it will be a light seer or shadow seer card. So the first card in the major arcana is always the Fool. And here we have the number of the card and the name. And in this deck, there are no borders, as you can see, which is something that I don't like or dislike. I actually like to have a collection with both kinds of cards. It's very artistic. So in this picture, the major theme of the Fool is that she or he is going off on an adventure at the beginning of a journey, and they're blissfully unaware of the danger, which you can see she's leaning back right over a cliff, and she is clearly blissfully unaware. So the next card here is the Magician, and I do see the infinity sign, which is common for magician cards, and I see 4 kinds of magic coming down here. Sometimes magician cards will include the 4 suits, the swords, the wands, the pentacles, and I see in here earth, air, fire, water, which are each tied to the suits as well. I didn't see those at first. Let's bring it real close so you can see the symbols. So that is how this artist chose to include the 4 suits in the Magician card. Then we have card 2, the High Priestess, often curtains showing that veil between worlds. And if you look closely, her eyes are both closed and open. Very cool. And then we have card 3, the Empress. And I think this card is just so cool because her belly is very earth looking. And the Empress is often a pregnant figure in tarot. Great colors. And then with the Emperor, I want to take a moment to point out that there is some diversity in this deck. And I truly appreciate that. I think we need more diversity across the board, but in tarot, it's nice to see some of that diversity coming out. This is a very modern looking card as well. His clothes are very modern, which is interesting. Then we have the Hierophant. Sort of stairway. Take a close look at the detail. And then we have the Lovers, and again, there's some more diversity. We've got a black man, white woman. She's got some symbols on her between them. The Lovers. The Chariot. You've got your black horse and white horse. Often in tarot, the horses are different colors and they're pulling in different directions. I do see that this horse is running straight forward and this horse is at an angle, so I believe that is the intention. the Strength card in this deck is very interesting. Strength is one of my favorite cards in tarot. Perhaps I'll make another video where we discuss the meanings of the cards. I am a beginner, so I don't necessarily know everything there is to know, but I do have a lot of materials and I'm constantly learning. With this card, typically you see a female. She is often naked, and there is a monster, a lion, something big and powerful with her. So it's woman and beast, and she is vulnerable, and she has some control over the animal because her strength is her compassion, and I believe her vulnerability as well. In this case, the woman is half woman and half lion, and I think that's an interesting interpretation. Strength. There's a lamb here as well. I have to look into that a little bit more. Then we have our Hermit card. I think this is pretty. This pathway. This is a very pretty card. It's almost floating on air almost. And then we have the Wheel. It's interesting that there are multiple wheels here. It's also interesting, and I'm not sure. There's dice here. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit and perhaps read in the book. And then we have Justice. This is a gorgeous card. And here we have some Asian inclusion, I believe the drawing is intended to be. So she sort of reminds me of Mulan, but with the swords and the descent, the Asian descent. Justice. I think it's interesting too that her eyes are open here and closed here. There's a lot you can interpret there, particularly if you are using reversals. And then we have the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man is always hanging by choice. They always have a loose limb, or they're being displayed in an acrobatic sense, as in that it is their choice to hang. Death and rebirth. Typically the Death card is just death, or that's the only word associated, but the meaning is truly about rebirth. So I think it is great that Chris Ann has included rebirth on this card. It is a very interesting card. Typically you see a skeleton, but in this instance you have someone whose face is replaced with the forest and a star or the sun. Another card I'll have to look into. This deck has some interesting art and can be used to interpret maybe a little differently than other decks, and I like that. Here we have the Temperance card. Angel's wings, perhaps. A balance of the sun and the moon, or dark and light, shadow and light. And then the Devil card. The Devil card is interesting. Usually there are two figures with the puppet strings. Here there's just one, and their ears are covered, so that's interesting. The devil is being shown as a man. The Tower card. This card is very interesting looking and unexpected. I always expect to see an actual tower, but this seems to be some kind of nature. And we've got butterflies on the tower. They're sort of fiery, but perhaps they represent the humans falling down, or perhaps that's what this here represents. I'm not sure. Next, we have the star. It's kind of got a kite string going on towards this woman's heart. Very interesting. Pretty. In decks, often a favorite card of mine is the moon card. We have a white wolf and a black wolf, the moon, and there's always water involved, or typically water involved, and the woman is drowning in the water. It's a card of illusion, dreams. Very pretty. And then we have the sun card. It's very bright colors. I love how it's yellow, goes down to pink and then into the blue. Very pretty. Very hippie-like. Almost a tie-dye effect in the paint. And then we have card 20, Judgment. This may be my favorite card in this deck so far. I've only really explored the major arcana, but this card is definitely very cool. It's almost as though she is asking for something, a prayer, something, and then being freed to be herself, freed from judgment maybe. You can interpret these cards however you need to in a reading, whatever. They are a conversation starter, and I just think that this is a perfect example of that, of how you can interpret what you're feeling. It's very interesting to be free of judgment is my interpretation. But it might not be yours. And then finally we have the World card. And the World card 21 is the last card in the major arcana. So now I will flip through the minor arcana cards for you, one suit at a time. The suits are the Pentacles, the Swords, the Cups, and the Wands.